DJ Joan Falmer, Rough Ends No More. You know, I wish I could tell you what the entire song list is, but I can't because every time we open our mouths to tell you what the song is playing, he's already played another one, and then another one, and then, so yes, you'll just have to do with that last one. DJ Joan Falmer on the ones and twos. Absolutely brilliant. And of course, we have with us this morning Ngethe of Training Solutions Limited, speaking to us about innovation and about Rowan Gibson, who will be coming on the 3rd of November 2012. You certainly want to get the tickets to that particular event because it's going to be one that changes your organization. I kid you not. I actually read the book and spoke to the man, and yeah, he's like really radical about his thoughts with innovation and even just how he defines innovation. If you heard that interview, he's completely blew apart the scope of innovation from just another new product or another new service to something that was just so much bigger. And in fact, one of the things that we were talking about during the break is around innovation in parastatals and in public bodies, wasn't it?
Yes, because one of the things that he says is that he wants to make innovation a core value, which to me was a very seductive idea. And then we deal with parastatals all the time, and I don't know if I can see this happening. I mean, how would that work? How could you actually take innovation as a core value?
Change is the one constant in life. Whether it's in your personal life, in the business world, in the corporate world, with our businesses, with our government. And what innovation allows you to do is it gives you the tool to respond to that change.
Right.
So even governments, even parastatals are constantly faced with a changing world. The people that they serve are constantly putting pressure on them,
yes, absolutely,
to change the way they do things. And if you look at just, regardless of whether you're in Africa, in the third world, even the US, the Arab world, there's constant demand from the citizens to provide better services. So if they don't change, if they don't innovate to respond to those that they serve, then they will be finding it very difficult to exist. And for me, innovation is about relevance. And if they're not changing, if they're not innovating, then they become irrelevant. And are forced to basically shut down sometimes.
Well, how do you introduce innovation in organizations? So, for example, parastatals or other organizations that are perceived as being very entrenched in tradition. How do you begin to introduce the idea that things can change and that things should change and that identities are not lost with innovation?
Identities of the parastatals
or of the public bodies or organizations.
Right. I think just going back to what I said, it's about relevance, it's about who are you serving, it's about putting yourself in the shoes of the persons that you serve. And I think at any one time, even if you're the government, you can become irrelevant. At the end of the day, the parastatals are headed by leaders. And as we all know, the buck stops and ends with the leadership. And if I was the head of a parastatal, I would want to be there as long as I can and to make sure that I'm making the impact that I want. So at a personal level, that's where I would start. How do you talk to the management? How do you make this whole thing about change and innovation resonate with the leadership? And only in that way can it cascade down into the rest of the organization.
Now, Rowan had a very interesting concept, which is that you can instill a culture of innovation within a country. Now, this for me was absolutely revolutionary. And he gave some examples, Singapore and the so-called East Asia Tigers as having created institutions that have allowed their nations to prosper as innovative nations. Do you think that this is something that is possible for African countries?
Absolutely, I believe so. And the thing is, it's not easy. We don't say it's easy, but it just takes that one person who believes in it and keeps going at it again and again and again. And if you remember, Rowan also gave the example of an application that was developed, a game application that was developed by, I think it's Planet Ruckus, based around the Matatu. It's called the Ma3 Racer. And within, just the concept of, innovation can actually come from Africa. Within, I think, 30 days, it had been downloaded 250,000 times across 170 countries. So absolutely, innovation can come from Africa, and absolutely, we can actually be at the forefront of innovation.
Well, we also don't want to give away too much. People have to go and listen to Rowan.
Yes, yes, that is
We're
true.
not giving you the cliff notes to innovation. You have to go. When people go, what can they expect, like from hour to hour? Because it's going to be the whole day at Safari Park, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when they walk in, what's going to happen?
Just before I go there, Washika,
Sure.
what I'd like to say is, I think at the end of the day, it's not so much about the program, but what businesses will stand to gain,
Right.
like you had asked earlier. And for me, I believe, one, resources are scarce, and innovation equips you to do more with less, and do it better. Innovation is also what makes your customers keep coming back to you. So I'm basically creating the case for the program on the 3rd. A lot of the times what we do is similar. You're a radio station just like the other radio station.
Right.
But it's how you innovatively package your programs that makes me keep tuning into Capital FM. Same with a fuel station, same with mobile service and phones. So innovation is what makes you distinct from your competitors. The thing around innovation, though, is that today's excellence is tomorrow's mediocrity.
Right.
So it's got to be sustainable. And these are some of the tools that I will go by with a day-by-day program, but these are some of the things that businesses will be walking away from on that day. The other thing that Rowan will be looking at is that innovation is around convenience. If you look at the most innovative inventions, it's been about doing things simpler, faster, in a more easier way. Think of simple things such as the ATM, lifts, mobile phones, iPads. Who would ever have thought that you could have money coming out of a wall, so to speak, or that you would walk around with a computer in your bag? Yeah. Who would want to walk around? Who would have thought you'd have wanted to walk around with a computer in your bag? Who would have thought that a mobile phone would be a bank? So what Rowan will be looking at is how you create a culture that continuously enables you to respond to your customer, and not just respond, but in fact anticipate. And that's something Apple does very well.
Right, yeah.
Small example, if you remember the Samsung Galaxy 3, it overtook the iPhone series earlier this year when it was introduced in July 2012 by selling 20 million units within 3 months. The other day, iPhone released the iPhone 5, and within 1 weekend it had sold 5 million units.
They had answered.
They had answered the call.
Yeah, they answered Samsung. Okay.
Exactly. So in terms of the program, what Rowan will be looking at, the program is actually divided into 4 sessions, and he'll be looking in the morning at how you make innovation happen. Where do innovation initiatives go wrong? What's the challenge around innovation? Why is it easier said than done? And then he'll be looking at something that he calls the 4 lenses, which is a methodology that walks you through how to set up innovation in your organization. He'll be looking at how you link innovation and your strategy. And then we'll take a break at that point, and he'll move on to turning insights into opportunities, breakthrough innovations, ideation process, innovating across every component of your business model. And then he'll go into a Q&A at that point. We'll then be at lunch, and he'll look at how do we access new growth opportunities through innovation. How do you manage the architecture, and how do you align it with your strategy? How do you allocate resources? We talked earlier about risk. How do you reduce the risk? And basically shift the paradigms in your organization around innovation. And then finally, and this is basically where he brings it all together, where he calls it driving innovation to the core, is looking at what is the role of leadership in innovation, what is the role of infrastructure, where do people come in, how do you entrench the culture, how do you make it part of your values. A lot of organizations talk about we are innovative, and actually training solutions is one of them. But how do you make it reality as opposed to rhetoric? So that in essence is a summary of the day.
Now you get all of this and much more when you come out to the Masterclass seminar on the 3rd of November 2012 at the Safari Park Hotel with Mr. Rowan Gibson. Now we're talking to Ngethe of Training Solutions all about this event and what you stand to gain from this event. Now we've been running a chance for you to get a ticket to go to this event. You now know why you absolutely must. You cannot afford to miss this one if you intend to take your organization, however small it is, to the next level. Come out and listen to Mr. Rowan Gibson, the world foremost leader in innovation. Now, we've been asking a question all week long. If you were in a particular sector, what idea or what strategy, what system would you introduce that would make that sector better? Let's think of a question for today, because we need to make them work for those tickets, don't they?
Yes, and we've been getting really interesting ones, because we've been asking what I thought were really hard ones. And then getting really extraordinarily thoughtful answers.
Yes.
So maybe it's even us, we need to start pushing
I think yes. And as Anne rightly said during our segue, there are a lot of people who have brilliant ideas in this country. I just want to share with you a little bit about what we got yesterday in answer to the question about what would we do to change over from the combustion engine and thus reduce fuel prices. And we had ideas about solar, about wind,
I thought that was really
nuclear.
difficult.
Fantastic. So what shall we pick today? And any special ideas? What sector shall we ask people to innovate in for today's draw?
The environment. Have we discussed the environment?
Nice.
There we go. So what system, idea, product or service would you introduce that would help us to conserve and preserve our environment? Oh, you're working for this one today.
Yeah, but there's a lot to work with. There's a lot. Hints. I hate seeing plastic bags. All over the game park when we were driving towards Malindi, there were all these plastic bags all over the place. What would you do about those? Why are our rivers so polluted? How can you make people actually go out of their way to preserve their environment? Hey, we could do this all day.
We could indeed. You know how to reach us, 072 0734 984 984, or tweet us 984 in the morning. Email breakfast@capitalfm.co.ke for your chance to go into that draw and win a ticket to go and be a part of this masterclass with Rowan Gibson on Saturday, the 3rd of November. But before we let you go, Anne, just before we do let you go, I know you've got some final things that you do want to say. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to share a short anecdote, but before I get there, I just want to give one more example around the importance of innovation. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I came across statistics from IMF the other day that say the Western Union has been in business for 150 years now.
Whoa.
Served by, I think, 480,000 agents all over the world. M-Pesa, in comparison, has been around for 5 years, since 2007. And the number of transactions that M-Pesa does in a week is equivalent to what Western Union do in an entire year, 52 weeks. That was shocking to me. So the message there was, here you are, you think you're a giant, you're thinking, I don't need to be innovative, I know what I'm doing, I'm at the top of my game. And some small innovation comes from, some third world country that basically turns everything around on its head. So, food for thought there.
Indeed.
The other thing that I want to say, that in terms of our events, we get 30 to 40% of people or organizations coming in as repeats. And I think it's because our events continue to make the relevant impact and help these organizations, which is why they keep coming back. And you heard that from the testimonials as well.
Yes, we have. Now, very quickly, let people know how they can get tickets to come out to this event.
Right. You can go on our website, trainingsolutions.co.ke, or you can call us on 386-0645 through to 8. And do I have time? 1 minute for my anecdote?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, yes. 3 stores. A guy sets up a hardware store. 2 other people come and set up next to him. You may have heard this one. And he's put all his investments in there, and the other 2 come up with sales, 75% discount, and he's devastated. He doesn't know what to do. Because the traffic is going to the other 2 stores. So he thinks about it, and the next day he comes up and puts up a sign that says main entrance.
Absolutely fantastic. Oh, that's Ngethe of Trading Solutions. We've been talking to you. Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us all about innovation and about the fantastic event that will be happening on the 3rd of November with Rowan Gibson and his masterclass on innovation. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
It's been great.
Yes, it's definitely been our pleasure.
And we look forward to seeing you 2 as well in the room.
Oh, signed up. All right, there you go. Now, as we go out to get our tickets, we will leave you with one for you.